Right now, we turn to the critics of the new plan. Yesterday, Vice President Pence traveled to Kentucky, perhaps to put a little pressure on one of the bill's most vocal opponents, Republican Senator Rand Paul, who is with us now. Welcome, Senator. What's wrong with this bill?
I think it's basically Obamacare light. Keeps the subsidies, keeps the taxes for a year, then keeps the Cadillac tax forever, the tax on good insurance. Keeps the individual mandate, interestingly. You know, Republicans have complained for a year saying we didn't like that government was going to make you pay a penalty. Well, now instead of paying the penalty to the government, you pay the penalty to the insurance industry. There's also bailouts for the insurance industries. The one primary thing that's wrong with Obamacare that's most visible to everybody is that premiums are rising and through the roof, soaring in the individual market. That will happen under the Ryan plan as well because they do nothing to fix the fundamental problem.
What Paul Ryan would say is you're missing the forest for the trees, which is to say you're missing that this is changing Medicaid fundamentally, making it a block grant that goes back to the states, that it's getting rid of the Obamacare entitlement, that it's getting health savings accounts, which Republicans have long asked for.
Let's start just with the Medicaid expansion. It may be fundamentally changing or it may not. They're built into Medicaid. They're going to block grant it, but not with a fixed amount of money. It's going to go up at about 5% a year. It goes up at CPI, an indicator of inflation in the medical community, which is going up at about 4% plus 1. So it's going to go up at about 5% a year. The question is that a lot slower than what Medicaid's going up now? Is it quicker? I think it's still building in the growth of an entitlement program that really isn't paid for. So, for example, under Obamacare, I think it was dishonest accounting. They said the federal government will pay for Medicaid, 100% of it. Well, we have no money. We borrow $1 million a minute and have a $20 trillion debt, so it's dishonest. It sounds good. Give somebody stuff for free. Give them free health care, but it's not really free. We're borrowing it from China, which really threatens our country from within.
You said that it retains the individual mandate. The argument is that if you don't have something to get healthy people into the insurance market, that it ends up being just sicker and older people, and that's why premiums go up.
Well, exactly right. The fundamental premise of Obamacare was we have to have healthy people buy it, so we're going to give them a mandate. So here's the interesting thing that left and right, people who are really looking at this agree on, it's going to get worse. The individual market will get worse when you get rid of the individual mandate and make it an insurance mandate, which is a slightly lesser penalty. And so more and more sick people will be in the pool. And let's say you've lost your job and you've lost your insurance. Do you have any incentive to get back in and pay the penalty? No, the penalty will look at, people are writing now that it's a disincentive to buy insurance. Why don't you wait till you're sick? So really, you can't have an insurance model where people wait till they're sick to get insurance. It doesn't work. And here's the problem with Ryan's plan. He keeps that fundamental aspect of Obamacare. He doesn't change it.
You say that Speaker Ryan is pulling the wool over the eyes of the president. Really? Pulling the wool?
I think there's a separation between the two. I've talked to the president, I think, 3 times on Obamacare, and I hear from him that he's willing to negotiate. You know what I hear from Paul Ryan? It's a binary choice, young man. But what does a binary choice mean? His way or the highway? There are 2 choices.
Well, I think his argument would be the binary choice is you do this now through reconciliation, a Senate process that's kind of a pain, and then you have a second piece of legislation.
What we're hearing is a binary choice is it's the Ryan plan or the status quo. And what he's rammed through his committee is his without any amendments. And that's the question. If we get what we've got from Ryan, Obamacare light, he will not have the votes, and we have to get to that point before true negotiations begin. Right now, I think there's a charm offensive going on. Everybody's being nice to everybody because they want us to vote for this, but we're not going to vote for it.
You talked to I'm going to get to the Senate in a second, but you said you spoke with the president. Where do you think he's willing to negotiate on these issues that you've highlighted?
I don't think the president is rigid in support of the House bill. I think he's open to seeing how we can get consensus. And what I've told the president is what I'm telling everybody. We're united on repeal, not so much on replacement. We do not agree with the fundamental 3 or 4 things that Ryan has: subsidies, taxes, mandates, and insurance bailout. That's Obamacare. We don't want that. If you take that off, what do you have? You've got repeal. Now, what you do to help people...
Can you do just repeal by itself?
Well, no, I would do replacement in a separate bill because what I would do through replacement is there are 2 things you have to do to fix the individual market. You have to tell people that they can buy any kind of insurance they want, so you get rid of the mandates on what it goes into insurance, But you also have to allow for people to join a buying group. If people join a healthcare association or a co-op,
right, that's part of the Ryan plan.
That drives down. It's not in the Obamacare Light proposal.
It's in the second set of legislation.
But the reason they have to be discussed at the same time is CBO is going to come out and say a lot of people are not covered.
Right.
So how are we going to cover them? I would cover them with something much better than Obamacare, and that would be joining a co-op to drive down prices, but also to get guaranteed issue where you won't be dropped.
Let me ask you a question. You said that there's room perhaps for negotiation with the president, but Mike Pence was in your state, and he said, for us to seize this opportunity to repeal and replace Obamacare once and for all, we need every Republican in Congress. That sounds like he's talking to you.
I think that's the pre-negotiation. We're still in the pre-negotiation period. The real negotiation period comes, and I promise you this is the way it's going to work. We will get Obamacare Light, Ryan's plan, unless there's enough conservatives in the House to say no. If there's enough to say no, when they start voting on the rules of debate, if they bring down the rule, if they stop him in the tracks, then a true negotiation begins. No negotiation right now counts until they determine they have enough votes to stop Obamacare Light.
Let me ask you a question on wiretapping, because I know that's an issue you care a lot about. There are your colleagues, Lindsey Graham and Senator Sass, have said that this claim the president made about being wiretapped as a candidate by President Obama, they say this is too incendiary to wait for the committees to adjudicate it, that the president should bring forward whatever evidence he has. Does that bother you, matter to you?
Well, I think the first thing to realize is that I think everybody's been getting the story wrong. I doubt that Trump was a target directly of any kind of eavesdropping, but I'm not saying it didn't happen. I think there's a very good chance it does. I don't have any special information, but the way it works is the FISA court, through Section 702, wiretaps foreigners and then listens to Americans. It's a backdoor search of Americans, and because they have so much data, they can type Donald Trump into their vast resources of people they're tapping overseas, and they get all of his phone calls. And so they did this to President Obama. They 1,227 times eavesdrops on President Obama's phone calls, then they mask him. But here's the problem, and General Hayden said this the other day. He said even low-level employees can unmask the caller. That's probably what happened to Flynn. They're not targeting Americans, they're targeting foreigners, but they're doing it purposefully to get to Americans.
Okay, so your point is the president would have been caught in a net, or excuse me, candidate Trump caught in a net but not targeted directly.
Or his associates, but it's very dangerous because they're revealing that now to the public.
All right, thank you, Senator. We ran out of time.